Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron LeGrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Welcome back. We are still on the 32 fatal mistakes made by most real estate investors. And we are now on the section on selling houses, which starts with mistake number 25, renting the house. Now, you've heard me say this before, but if you just put a tenant in the house, collect rent, get a security deposit or a few $100s, that means you don't get any big upfront payday, and you get to do all the repairs on the house for the whole time that tenant is in there. I can't imagine why anybody would want to do that when they can lease option the same house, like a great big upfront deposit, 5 to 10% of the purchase price, non-refundable, but applicable to their purchase when they buy, and delegate all of the repairs to the buyer as a condition of their purchase, which is right in the agreements that they're going to sign in front of an attorney, if you're going to listen to me, all right? I'm not going to rent a house. I'm going to lease option it. I've lease optioned houses in war zones. Yeah, I don't get great big deposits. I'd rather get $3,000 from a tenant buyer and give them responsibility for the repairs than putting a tenant in there and get $500 deposit or whatever it is from them, because they act like tenants. Tenant buyers act like buyers. They're a different breed of human, and they got a dog in the hunt. They know if they don't buy, they're going to lose that multi-$1,000 deposit, regardless of what size it is. So I just don't see any reason to rent a house. Now, some might say, but what if they buy? Well, what if they do? You'll get a big check, go out and buy another one, for crying out loud. But I'll tell you, I wouldn't worry about that, because most tenant buyers just won't go get a loan and close on the house. When you can lease option it and collect thousands plus pass the repairs on. That's a big deal to me. That's going to put about 20% to your bottom line, just passing the repairs on to the tenant buyer, plus all those calls you don't get when things go wrong. And this is made very clear to them by the time they get through the attorney. I'm going to tell them that up front. Attorney's going to point it out to them in the agreement again. They're going to sign off on it. All right. So I don't have to deal with them. If they don't pay rent, they lose the deposit. And that, my friends, is the reason they're a different breed of human. Now, nobody's going to give you a big deposit on a house if they don't expect to buy, but because they expect to buy is a long ways away from actually buying. Right? Most of the time they live in the house a couple of years and decide they want to move, or something goes wrong in their life. So you might be asking, well, why don't they buy? Well, they can't qualify, for one, when they come to me. There's some reason they can't qualify. Either they got weak credit, or they can't prove their income, or they got the debt to income ratio, or whatever. But whatever is wrong, they can fix if they want to. I mean, I put tenant buyers in houses for starting with 2 years. And frankly, if they don't buy the house at the end of the 2 years, I don't care. I don't want them to buy it. I let them live there as long as they want. They're still going to do the repairs. And if they want to buy later on, we'll deal with that later on when they want to buy. But they just don't work like that way. They'll move into the house. And, sometimes some of them will close. It means they got to go clean up their own mess and go and get a loan. And I get a call that they're going to buy. Well, that's great. I'm happy for them, actually. It also means I get a check. I lose that golden goose, but I'm going to go get another one or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever. In fact, when I get a chance, I'm going to show you how to take that house that you're about to lose and turn it into 3 more houses, quadruple the value of your estate, of your assets, and your monthly cash flow, cashing out of one house. Using a 1031 exchange, doing it the right way, literally, if you get that and you internalize that, you're going to probably want to cash out at every house you get, because you get 3 more every time you do, and a lot more monthly spread. And every time one of those sells, you do the same thing. There is a lesson on our Gold Club site. Probably go put in the search box 1031 exchange, and it'll come up, and I'll show you. You'll see a chart, one house, and then you'll see 3 houses right below it. Look like an Amway chart. But believe me, their attitude is different. They just act like they own the house, because they do have the right to buy the house. And so they take care of the house. All the landlords, all these stories you hear about people moving out of your house and tearing them up. I don't have that problem with tenant buyers. I had plenty of that problem with tenants back when I had over 200 of them at one time. Ooh, I don't even want to think about that. Yeah, you might lose it, but I wouldn't worry about it. But if you do lose it, you're going to get money. So lose it. No, I mean, 90% of my tenant buyers don't buy. And I'll tell you why. I don't do anything to force them to buy. I don't do anything to get their credit cleaned up. I'll give them the name of somebody who'll do it if they want it, but I don't force them to do it. I'm not on their back about buying it every 2, 3, 4 weeks or a month or so. In fact, I don't have any contact with them after I put them in the house until they tell me they're going to move or they're going to buy. They pay rent every month. We'll certainly have contact with them when that starts. But remember, if the rent don't come in, they're forfeiting their deposit. That's why the rent's going to come in. I had no problem at all collecting rent during the whole COVID time because they knew that deposit was at risk. When you got tenants, you got no deposit, all right? You got no leverage to hold over them. So I wouldn't worry about them buying. Just put them in there, set it and forget it, and wait till whatever happens. In the meantime, you're getting richer and richer and richer every single day. And if they buy it, I'm happy for them. I really am. I'm just not going to push them to buy. You can go buy another one while putting money in your account, because if they buy, you're going to get money. All right, number 26, never publish the deposit or rent. That's one of the first things that I will teach you in class. The minute you name the down payment or deposit, you won't get a dime more. We don't name it. Besides, if you name it, you probably lose a lot of calls. And we don't name the monthly rent. So here comes the call, goes to Pat Live, 24-hour answering service. Pat Live asks them, from my script, what's the most you can put down and what's the most you can pay per month? Okay? Now that information comes to you immediately, and now you know what you're dealing with. So, if they're broke, they got no money, they're not a buyer, probably won't even call them. But if they got plenty of money, or at least a good amount of money, pick up the phone and call them and see if they got any more money and give them a lockbox to the house. So I'm not going to give them a lockbox to the house unless I know that they got enough money to satisfy me, or at least they're somewhere in the ballpark. In my case, I think Atlas calling all of them, but honestly, back when I was doing all that calling, I quickly learned these calls are a waste of time until I know what they have to work with. So let the system do that for you. Remember, we talk about systems here when we started this 32 mistakes thing, and this is part of the system. You don't have to talk to a tenant until you know they got money. What the mistake is, opening your mouth and telling them how much you got to have down and how much you need per month. No, shut up. Ask questions, answer questions with questions. Oh, I got $10,000, so you're telling me that's all you can come up with is $10,000? There they are. Shut up and let them talk. Man, that's so hard for some people to learn. Never be first to name a number, and you will discover they'll almost always take less than you are about to offer them or pay you more than you are about to accept. Shut up. Let them talk. Shut your mouth. And watch what a big difference that makes in your negotiating skills. Number 27, selling too cheap. Oh, I see a lot of that going on, especially with the older investors. The older investors have been at it for several years. They literally are not keeping up with the times, and they're working on yesteryear's numbers, and they're making big mistakes selling them too cheap. And they just don't do a little bit of homework to find out what they're really worth. I mean, you can go on our dream site, you can go on Zillow and find out what houses similar to that are selling for. It's not that big of a thing to learn, and yet they still put them on the market too cheap. Well, in my case, it's always just the opposite. I was selling houses for more than what they were worth back in the 80s. I always raise the price. I discovered that we can always come down, but we can't go up once we name the price. I always put it on the market for more than what my comps say it's worth. And I'm talking about whether I'm rehabbing it or whether I'm doing a terms deal and put a lease option tenant buyer in there. I always raise the price. Who's going to challenge me? If I'm lease optioning the house, they don't go out and get an appraisal on the house. And you know, and you won't believe this till you get in the game, but the price you're selling it for is of little concern to a tenant buyer who wants to get in the house. They care about how much my payment's going to be and how much I need down and how fast I can get in the house. Trust me on this. The price is not the determining factor as to they want the house or not. Remember, well, here's what I tell them. They say, well, gosh, that price is too high. Really? What do you think it ought to be? And they give me a number. And I said, well, I can't sell it to you for that. So if you think the price is too high, maybe this isn't the house for you. Perhaps you could go find someone else who will sell you a house at a lower price, considering you can't go to the bank and get a loan to pay them off. That'd be the end of that discussion. All of a sudden, they don't care about the price anymore. So I always raise the price. And I'm telling you the minimum of 5%. And don't hesitate for a minute to do that. I mean, I can give you proof after proof after proof after proof of my students who have raised the price, gotten it, and would have never thought about it if I just hadn't pointed out that you're the one that sets the price. They're not going to go get the house appraised. And even if they do, my price is my price. It's their problem, not my problem. But we don't have that problem. That's just what happens in people's mind. If I'm renovating to cash out, my house is going to be the nicest one on the block. And I mean it. If we're going to, I teach you how to renovate houses. I'll show you some renovated houses if you give me a chance. Come to my quick start boot camp, and we'll show you what a renovated house looks like. And there won't be any on the block that are better looking. And so they got to be renovated right. You're going to get the top dollar out of them. And that's also another reason why we raise the price, because it's renovated right. It's not renovated like a lot of renovators are doing out there, like the banks are doing. They're just whitewashing the things and just getting them livable. That's not the way you renovate a house. If you want to sell it to a qualified buyer, they can go down line and buy from anybody they want, because if they're qualified, the buyers will pay you more, and the appraisers will appraise higher. If you do a quality renovation on it, appraisers will appraise higher, and they're okay with it because they have a lot of leeway, especially since they know that the buyer, what the buyer is willing to pay, which is really what determines the value. And they go in there and they see a nice job and they don't have anything to pick apart. And you usually get your amount, and that's assuming you're selling it for cash. Now remember, if I'm putting a tenant buyer in there is no appraiser. Nobody's going to call for an appraisal. So if the buyer agrees to pay more and I agree to sell it for more, that's what it's worth. So I'm selling it for what it's about to be worth. I don't need anybody's permission. People don't buy on price, they buy on emotions. So true. That's why, if they're buying it on terms, they're buying it on terms because they don't have any other choice. If they're buying it after it's rehab, it better be emotionally appealing to them when they walk in the front door. Wow. Then it's gone. I saw a chart on the internet last year where 32% of the people who are applying for a loan don't get it. 32% don't get it. If that's true, I made up to 70%, because I know for sure there's a whole lot more people who don't apply for the loan who already know they're not going to qualify. And I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't more than 70%, because nobody can go out and get a number on how many don't apply because they know they won't qualify. There's no way to measure that. So we got a big old huge market out there that we're appealing to. When we put out a house on a lease purchase, it's not about selling it. It's about handling and finding out which one of these folks that I want to deal with that's got the most money, pretty much. Well, it's not, selling houses on terms is a pretty easy way to sell a house. In fact, it's the second easiest way. The first is wholesaling to a renovator. So we're looking for the ones in this majority. So people are not going to come to us with good credit. I don't care. I don't need their credit. I just need them to give me several $1,000s so that I know I got leverage over them if they want to act up. They act up, they lose that deposit. And if I have to say that 10 times before that gets in your head, I will, because that's the real secret to being a landlord and not growing old fast dealing with tenants who want to suck the life out of you. I am the loan committee. I'm the one that approves them. It's them and me. There is nobody else in between. At least on a terms deal. On a cash deal, of course, the opposite. Banks got to approve them and all that crap, and that's one reason I don't want to deal with it. You want to make a house easy to sell? Make it easy to buy. How do you make it easy to buy? Terms. Nothing is easier than leasing with an option to buy. They come to you, you have a meeting, 3 days later, they're in the house. No banks, poor credit okay. In fact, I put right in my ads, poor credit okay. No time delay, instant occupancy. And there's plenty of time for them to move in, fix what's broke if they want to, then go apply for a loan. Then I get a call that they're going to close me out. Well, I don't get very many of those calls. I can tell you that right now. So don't lay awake at night waiting on it. Now, you know that conventional wisdom would say, well, gosh, I want to get this thing cashed out so I can get paid. Well, you're going to have to try to work on overriding conventional wisdom, because that is the worst thing you can do is cash out of it when you got a tenant buyer in it. You lose the golden goose. Go back to that house I showed you of mine. The house has already made me $600,000 in the whatever years that I've owned it, since 2014. I'm telling you, get a whole passel of them, and I don't pick yourself a goal. What if your goal is just to get 25 houses and put tenant buyers in them? You'll be a multi-millionaire before you even think about it. I mean, you just set up a retirement that will keep paying you for the rest of your life and beyond. And now when you learn to work these with the use of a Roth IRA where you don't pay taxes, you'll be surprised how fast you can build a real wealth, and certainly a real retirement. So if you're an old geezer like me and you don't have a retirement set up, hey, real estate is probably your only answer, because you can make the money quickly, and now you make it inside your Roth IRA. Oh my goodness gracious, you're set for life. The price is irrelevant to these buyers. I went over that. And we're the toll gate they got to go through us to get in. We're providing a public service to all those who can't qualify. Now, at least yet. Now think about that for a minute. If my tenant buyers come to me and they got poor credit, how are they going to get in a house if I don't let them in, if they can call their own? If sellers sell to me, they got to have a reason they sell to me. And sometimes, I save them from foreclosure, even if they're not in foreclosure yet. That's where they're probably headed. Think of all of the houses that we keep out of foreclosure. The banks should love us. Do they? I don't know. I don't care. Okay, but there's so many, and think of all the people that we pay along the way with all the services they provide us. Well, I don't know, you're renovating a house, you got a ton of people to pay, but even on terms houses, aren't we paying for insurance? Aren't we paying the mortgage payments? Aren't we paying for services of some sort or another? And we are putting money back into the public's coffers by buying these houses. We're not hurting anybody. We're helping everybody we deal with. Nobody loses on these deals. Mistake 28, take inbound calls from buyers. Well, I think you already know the answer to that one. Call Pat Live. Go to ronlegrand.com/Pat Live, and you'll see for the minimum amount they'll charge you, it's $199 for 250 minutes of a live human being answer the phone 24 hours a day. That is cheap, okay? And if you need more time than that, you can buy it as you need it and pay for it as you need it, and they're not gonna overbill you without your permission. And they're a great company to work with. I've been working with them for over 20 years. So if you want to have inbound calls taken, I don't know, maybe you're in another business even, you can go to Pat Live, because I've not met a better qualified inbound call service than Pat Live. Very, very inexpensive price, and very easy to work with, and very automated. They take all the calls from buyers. They ask them my short script, and then they send it to you immediately, and then you determine whether you want to have them call back or not. They call that automation. They'll pre-screen them for you by asking the questions that you gave them to ask. How much you got down? How much can you pay per month? For a lousy $200 a month. Now, you only call back the ones that you think, what's going to make you want to call them back? Obviously, they got a good chunk of money. Now, they may not have enough. I don't know, suppose I'm trying to sell a $300,000 house and they tell me they only got 10 grand. Well, they're certainly going to get a call. Absolutely going to get a call, because I'm going to find out if they got more than that, which they usually do, and or if they want to trade anything. See, I put right in my ads, we'll take anything on trade. I love taking trades. Okay. You wouldn't believe the stuff I got. Cars and boats and motorcycles and trucks. And I even got a horse one time. I sold the horse where he stood, never took possession of it. But, I'm going to give them about half of what I think that thing is worth that they want to trade. And it comes off their purchase price. And, if I want it bad enough, some of it might even come off their down payment. For example, if they got a nice classic car they want to trade me, well, they kind of got me because they got the upper hand. I'm going to try not to let them know that. All right, you get the message. We make it easy for them to buy. We work with them. We don't know what we got to work with until we make that call and start asking the questions that are right on my script. And of course, if they got money, you're going to do that. You're going to do that every single time. But if they're broke or they're looking for a place to rent, waste of time. Number 29, not using realtors when you're cashing out. I've already touched on this a lot, but it's true. You just might, the only way you're ever going to find out why I'm telling you to do this, if you go try to sell one yourself and find a qualified buyer and get them through the system and get them to the closing table. It's a lot of work, a lot of crap. Remember, I'm raising the price on my house, so that's 6%. I got to pay that realtor. I don't feel it. I mean, okay, I could sell it myself. I've sold hundreds of them. I don't even want my team messing with trying to sell it to a qualified buyer. It's a real pain. And what it comes down to is I'm happy to give up that 6%, not to have anything to do with the sales process whatsoever. Also, my team can be focused on buying better deals instead of trying to sell that house. And again, those realtors already have buyers in their system. They will probably just plug in somebody that they've already screened and already know what they qualify for. And that means that when you get this beautiful house that you just renovated on the market, it's going to go like that. Going to go like that. Plus, they might get multiple offers on it. Look what the realtors do. Pre-screen them. Well, first you got to find them, pre-screen them, get a loan processor, get involved in getting all the docs together, meet the appraiser, home inspector, set up the closing, contact all the parties while dealing with the closing agent and the docs. Not me. No more. I'd rather have a root canal. I'm not kidding. For 5 or 6%, they're responsible for all of this crap. Plus, they're going to get it sold while I'm trying to figure out how to get it sold. Set it and forget it. Let other people do what they do best, freeing you up to do what you do best, and that's make deals. So besides, I'm going to raise the price more than enough to pay for that realtor. It's not technically it's free. Wonder how many deals investors lose while wasting all the time trying to save a few dollars. Well, we're all guilty of that. Oh, if we let others do what they do best. You ever heard that before? So we can do what we do best. That's a habit change, by the way. That'll take some time. But I'll tell you what, once you get to the point to where you delegate just about everything, you ain't never going to go back. No, never. Because once you get out of the habit of minutia, you ain't going to let yourself go back. You're going to look back and go say, oh, I remember. No, not me. Here, you do it. I delegate everything. Almost everything. I can't delegate getting a haircut, but I can delegate almost everything else. And if your profit is so small that you can't pay a realtor, the problem is not their fee, that you paid too much. That's the problem. Get better at buying houses and you'll have plenty of room to pay a realtor. And you don't need, remember now, you don't need a realtor for terms deals, okay? So I know it's easy for you to get confused, especially if you're just watching me trying to figure out what the heck I'm saying. Realtor is only for all cash qualified buyers who want to move into the house. We'll have a terms deal sold before the realtor can even get into the MLS system. We don't need realtors to sell terms deals. Number 30, no patience. Like me, no patience, okay? I think patience is a liability, not an asset. Somebody's got to get things moving, all right? But if you're always in a hurry to sell or a hurry to get a tenant buyer, you're going to make mistakes caused by chaos that you created for yourself because you don't have the patience, or you see some expenses coming up that you don't have the money for. About everybody that gets in this business, first time they put a lease option tenant buyer in the house, they don't get a big enough deposit. Okay, that takes a little patience. And if you put somebody in a $300,000 house and you get a $5,000 deposit, they're never going to buy the house, and they're going to be your bigger problems. The people that give you the least amount of money are the biggest problems later. Be patient. When I buy a house, I'm going to get 2 to 3 months before I make my first payment. That gives me plenty of time to be patient. And so use it. That means you've got to screen people and just use your best judgment. I put that house out there on the market with the lease option in the ad and poor credit okay and no banks and stuff like that. First 30 days, I'm going to get a gauge on what kind of action I'm going to get on it. Well, okay, if I got it out there for 30 days and I don't have a buyer, okay, I'm going to get a little bit more aggressive and probably make up my mind I'm going to take less down if I can get it from a tenant buyer. But you got to try to set these things up to begin with so that you're not in a real rush. Don't ever buy a house and have a payment due 2 weeks later. I mean, why? Just part of your offer is my payment's going to start in the third month after the house is vacated. That's right in all my offers. Okay, it's part of our agreement. I don't even negotiate with them. I just put that in there. And if they want to talk about it, I just tell them, well, I need time to get this house in shape for me to sell, get somebody in it. And it's a condition of my offer. Is that going to be a problem with you? And it isn't. Poor cash flow creates chaos, management, and bad decisions. I know. Believe me. I might be old, but I can sure remember looking back and all those days where I didn't know how the bills were going to get paid, and I did some stupid stuff to try to get a little bit of money in the account that did nothing but create bigger problems later. And I understand the mindset that goes into that, but just bad decisions, and it's the way you run your business. You're not really going to learn to keep out of that trap until you're actually out there participating in the game and implementing the stuff that you know. But if you do this business right, it's a real great business. I told you on terms deals, I always get 2 to 3 months. On a lease option I do, on a financing I do, subject to, I always get 2 to 3 months. Well, almost always. If they're already behind on their payments, when I get a hold of them, I'm probably not going to get 3 months of payments that they haven't made in the past 3 months. By the way, one thing you might want to make a note of, when you talk to people that are behind on their payments, don't forget to ask them this. Well, listen, if I buy this house, how many of these payments can you make up? Better write that one down. You're going to forget to ask it. And believe me, they almost always can make up some of them, even if they can't make up all of them. Hey, one little old sentence, just like that, could get you a pretty good chunk of money. It's a condition of my purchase, not an option for the seller. In other words, I'm not asking them to let me make a payment 3 months later. I am telling them this is when I'm going to make the payment. And no begging. No begging. One of the biggest mistakes investors make, they beg. Don't know they're begging until they listen to themselves and play it back on a recorder. So, in other words, I take the pressure off of having my back against the wall by getting that 2 to 3 months before my first payment is due. And gives me plenty of time to get somebody in the house. Remember, if I'm borrowing money now to buy it and rehab it, I'm not going to give my private lender a choice, okay? I'm going to borrow X number of dollars and the interest will accrue until you're paid off. And they want that anyway. Believe me, they don't want them payments. They don't want to mess with it. So if I'm paying them 8% and I'm borrowing $100,000 in a year, I owe them $108,000. So in a half a year, I owe them $104,000. You only pay interest for the time that their money is out, but that does not mean you have to make payments on the property. No pressure to make payments or other expenses for that matter. The loan covers it all. And write this one down. Always borrow more than you need. And if you cannot borrow more than you need, and you're over a 70% loan to value ratio, for example, that's your maximum. Don't ever borrow from a private lender more than 70% of the after repaired value. And if that's not enough to get you in the house and get the house repaired and cover the holding cost and put some money in your pocket, you simply pay too much for the property. Okay. Now you're getting yourself right into a trap. If you borrow more than 70%, you ain't gonna have hardly anything left by the time you get through with all those costs in the middle. Be very, very careful. Because the truth is, if you're dealing with private lenders, they don't know the rules. They don't really know what private lending is until you tell them. So they don't know that if they lend you 80%, how big of a risk that is on their part. That equity will go real fast when Murphy comes in and some of these things that you counted on don't work out exactly the way you planned them. Number 31 is you don't use tax-free entities. That's a shame, because here's the three big ones that we can use. Anybody watching me right now can set up a Roth IRA with $100. Now you can't contribute more than $6,500 to that Roth IRA, but I'm telling you, there's no limit to how much money that Roth IRA can earn. So back to our previous lesson. IRA puts up $100, goes and flips a house, picks up a check for 20 grand. Well, that check has got to be made out to your IRA and not go through your bank account. But that's $20,000 your IRA just made tax-free forever. And this is how you build cash in your IRA. Now you're going to take that $20,000 and keep doing house after house. You only need a $100 deposit for all the wholesale deals you do. That's it. Well, if you're doing through MLS now, you need a $1,000 deposit. So, your CPA nor your attorney can tell you how to do this because they don't have a clue. They understand that their IRA can buy a house, but they don't understand how to do it and leverage it into real estate and without using your money or your IRA's money. And incidentally, you cannot use your money if the deal's in your IRA. You cannot borrow from it or it cannot lend to you. However, that next one down there, that solo 401k, it can lend to you and it's still a tax-free entity. If you set it up right, you set it up as if it's a Roth. But here's the cool part. You hold the checkbook, and any deal you can do in your Roth, you can do in your solo 401k. And 1031 exchanges, that's what I was telling you about, changing one house into three houses. In fact, I got lessons on all of this stuff on the Gold Club site. If you want to go hunt them down, go join ronsgoldclub.com. You'll never run out of training on this site. But we don't have to pay taxes on these sales of these houses. We can make a lot of money by not paying taxes by leveraging these entities and do the deal through them and not outside of them. There are a few rules. Got to learn the rules. So if you learn to use the legal tools to grow tax-free, you will grow at a lightning fast. 10 times faster tax-free than taxed. In fact, I challenge you to go do the numbers on this yourself. Use a 10-year term, pick a number. Okay, I got 100 grand here. I invested for 10 years at 15% interest. Outside of my IRA, that means I got to pay tax on the gain every year, tax on the gain, so I can't reinvest that money. If you do that same thing inside of your IRA, 10 years from now, you have 10 times more money in your IRA than you would have outside your IRA. Don't believe it? Go do your own math. There's no better way to invest than tax-free. Tax-free. Your self-directed pension plans can all buy and control real estate tax-free. Note the word self-directed now. You ain't going to go down to your bank and open up an account and do this there. Self-directed means you make the rules. They don't even recommend investments to you. You decide what to invest and tell your third-party administrator, and you can do almost anything with these accounts. And don't forget your kids. If you got kids under the age of 18, you better make a note here. Because there's a thing called a Coverdell IRA. They call it a CISA, Coverdell Educational Savings Account, specifically set up to put your children through school from birth to age 30 and pay all of the expenses for the entire time. I'm talking all of the expenses. So how do we do this? Well, we do a deal in our child CISA. So we take $100 out of our child CISA, and frankly, you don't need to put much more money in there than that. We put a deposit on the deal. Here comes 20 grand back into the child CISA. Guys, that pays for everything. I'm talking about everything related to education. Education expenses, tuition, housing, books, supplies, uniforms, all paid out of the CISA, tax-free, and not a dime coming out of your pocket. I hope you got that one. But you remember, you got to open it before your kid turns 18, or you can't use it. That'd be before 18. And all the way up to 30. If they don't use it by the time they're 30, you can direct it to another child, or they can take it out and pay taxes on it. So you don't need to do a lot of deals in your CISA, just enough to think to pay for their education from wherever they're at till age 30. Run out of money, just go do another deal. Here comes the money for your kids. And by the way, let's say you got 4 kids and now you want to do a deal, you can make all 4 kids, all 4 CESAs, 25% owners in that deal, and now you split the profits up 25% and goes into each one of their, as far as they're concerned. Why don't you tell them, oh, we're putting in this money for your education here? Well, you kind of are, aren't you? Just not writing a check. How many people do you think in America never know that, will not know that, and save and save and save to fund their education account for their kids? It's a shame what lack of education costs you. Number 32, and the last one on the list, pushing tenant buyers to cash you out. In fact, I've already actually covered this. Why would you do that and give up all those goodies? Hand them the keys, collect the rent, sit back, forget about them, unless they don't send in the rent, and then get on them. But remember, if you put a tenant buyer in a house and they don't pay you the rent, that means they forfeit their non-refundable option deposit. That's why we don't have a problem with people that are in houses that we got a bunch of money on up front. I hope that sinks in. It's a totally different world of rentals. If they move, you do it again and again and again and again, and then you have the ultimate tax shelter die. Okay? But the whole time, you're not going to pay taxes. And if somebody does cashes you out, remember those 3 things that I just showed you: IRA, solo 401k, and 1031 exchange. So cashing out don't even mean you pay taxes. One day you'll be filthy, stinking rich. You'll be so rich all your relatives hate you. Along the way, you'll enjoy strong passive income, paying less taxes, work less. You're going to be enjoying a business that doesn't suck up your life, goes up in value every day that goes by, with minimal effort or time invested on your part, because you've learned the art of delegation, systemization, and to get out of the way and let systems do the things that you don't really want to do anyway. And most of the things that you are forced to do, you don't really want to do them. You just do them because you don't have anybody else to do them. Well, there is somebody else to do almost everything you can possibly think of. Can you say that about whatever you're doing now to make a living? Probably not. Let the geese live forever. The longer you own a house, the more money you make. Tenant buyers are not tenants. They do repairs. They're deposit at risk. And all right, one more. I'm going to give you another great deal here before we get through. I'm going to let you get involved in this training, the cheapest offer that I've ever made on wholesaling and on terms. I have systems for both. My rehabbing course, I have a land trust seminar of where to get the money. You need all cash. I'm going to throw all of that in. For $897, you're going to get all 3 of my courses: rehabbing, wholesaling, and terms, and all these goodies I'm going to give you as well. How to use a VA to free up your time, how to get rich in your IRA, how to complete contracts. Got a whole lesson on that. A 3 months hotline where you pick up the telephone and call somebody to get help when you need it. That's truly a $7,960 value there. 100% guaranteed, which means you get this stuff and you think it's not for you. You just call us up, tell us, and you'll get 100% of your money back. No catch, no restocking fee, or none of that crap. For $897, you get the terms business and the rehabbing business and the wholesaling business and all of those extra bonuses for $897, which is it's $500 less than I sell any one of those courses for, much less all 3 of them. So anyway, your decision. If you want to get involved, what better time than right now with no risk? Come to Papa. There's a number on your screen. And if you have questions on anything that I've covered here, you can send them to ask@ronlegrand.com, and I'll personally answer them for you. ask@ronlegrand.com. So that's the end of the 32 fatal mistakes. I hope you got a lot out of it, and hope to see you very, very soon in the near future.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.